Thank you so much, Aaron. It's such a joy and delight to be here. Thank you so much for publishing Narcissus. Um, it's really great to be reading this evening with all of these amazing poets as well. And Danielle, I too have a connection to Danielle because Danielle published some of the poems that are in Narcissus at The Abandoned Playground. So thank you for that, Danielle. Narcissus, unsurprisingly, is about the Narcissus myth. And I was really interested in querying this myth. And I was kind of encouraged to do so when I discovered, I was reading an academic article somewhere which actually outlined the fact that within Victorian poetry, there was something of a tradition of querying this myth. Of course, the terminologies were very different than from what they are now. So yeah, I felt the Narcissus myth was a wonderful prism through which to engage in some exploration of questions of sexuality and queerness. But also I was drawn to it because like many myths, it's both about itself and not about itself, in the sense that it engages with other stories. And of course, the most prominent myth that comes to mind is Echoes. And therefore the book features several strands, several images, and I guess leitmotifs. Ideas are repeated, echoed, amplified, mirrored, and there's an entire ecology at work. And I really intend the entire book to be read from cover to cover, though the individual poems hopefully sing on their own. But I say all of that, and at the same time, I'm also interested in questioning the agency of the poet, in undermining my own sense of intentionality, and at the same time, asserting that sense of intentionality and agency. So there are some interesting antinomies at work in here, I hope. So the first poem is called Tropopause, Acento. Such sheets of fire, such bursts of horrid thunder, and then again such groans of roaring wind and rain I never, such a night as this. Aloneness, but a poor, bare, forked animal, a small deer, a traitor, a storm as his bare head, such children, such a fellow, such sacrifices, such addition as your honors, such conditions, such a natural degree, such a tongue, daughter, on constant starts are we. Such dispositions, such a need to hide itself, such a monster, such a king. In transit. He crossed the border seeking warmth. Instead, everything was wet. A storm struck the ship like damnation. He saw tide foam round his ankles. Stars hung water sunk, while the boat rocked to waves, mouthing mantras, I am, I was. But at dawn, the world was a dream of clear sea. The sun made rippling signatures. At his dusk, his pen was fluent as rivers. His words like sails sought harbor. When they reached Naples, it was a new mask. His final costume was hard to shed. Real life in quarantine. Spanish steps, silent and steep, as nearby Roman fountains gurgled eclogues, and tourists completed their idle ablutions. The water in the pond considers Narcissus. He looks at me and sees right through me, as if I am nothing. as if he could live without me. I bathed him each day, moistly kissing the rise of his flesh, slapping his limbs, then falling away, down and down, lower and cooler. The surface is all he sees, not the way I labor to raise his own face back up to him, not my rippled laughter, my silver mechanics, nothing. Now I know what I must do. When next he leaves, I will replace his face. I will lay still and let him come over me. The sun. The sun. I will rise. My vapors will take back everything. And all that will be left is the empty gash in the soil where I once made my bed, where I offered him all of my soul, my molecules, where I let him step into me deep, his buried flesh rejoicing. Instead, he will step and find nothing but a grave. So the next poem is based on a painting, and there's, of course, a lot of ekphrasis in this collection, Narcissus being one of very frequently depicted in art. I forgot to send this image to Aaron so he could actually share it with people who wanted to look at the painting. So I'm going to actually put a link to it in the chat if you were so minded to look at the painting while I read. On John William Waterhouse's Echo and Narcissus, 1903. Firstly, quite clearly Narcissus is a bottom, what with the practiced arch of that lower back, bum in the air, the way he crumples his shawl like you'd crumple a bed sheet while getting railed. Secondly, Echo is so over being a beard. Thirdly, can we talk about how creepy the reflective water is? They say every mirror is false because it shows us our reversed face. A photograph shows us what we really are. Unseen in the painting are the bulbs of flowers that we tracked beneath the soil in winter, each a penis ensilked in foreskin. Narcissus. In this white bed, all things are made into a dream in which I fall into a lake, a small pond in which I disappear or am met each day with a new man. One with a hare lip, one with accusations, eyes saying, no, no, mumbling self-loathing. Mirror mad, I see them through a window that makes itself into a loving opening to some place that is a conspiracy designed to keep me from myself. Who are they? Who are they? Which is to say, after the beating, my world crumbled. I couldn't show anyone my face. More of them began to appear. One with a trust problem, another callous with friends. The shadows of Plato's cave slip up the bedroom wall, the past troubling the curtains, bodies buried among lace. They took my father's watch, which I would wear long after it stopped. My father who knew, who saw, who told me yes. Long after, he rose from the water, having changed like the ship of Theseus. In rippled light he rose, pebbled tombstones left beneath the surface each marking small drownings, fallen masks, tiny surrenders to the randomness of water, to the crystalloid silk of each new body joyfully swum into. And he looked back at me naked, and I saw anew. And in this wet circle, I loved him, you, and we knew. Because the sky is lighter than paper, a manifesto of feathers. Blue because my wings are the bookman's pages. Blue because the island is holy, the wind high. Blue as in azure, as in cadmium, as in noise. Blue and black because kisses hurt. Blue when they saw me, they saw us. Blue the night we were walking home, Josh, you and I and the thugs. Blue the night outside the art gallery when they chased us, unwinged. Blue like Mary's robes, blue like the altar boy gown I wanted because it was fabulous. Blue when they threw me out of the church and I dreamt of Jesus, truly blue, and the cherub has turned blue and the angel has turned blue into blue Krishna, blue, and I saw him one day in my dreams. Blue shirt of blue school uniform, blue invisibility, blue he touched my spine and flutes sang in me, blue both mirror and mute. Blue the walls, the stones, the tomb, blue once but now coolitude, cruauté, blue, blue ontilité, négritude, bâtiment, not bâtiment, blue for the way my heroes are dying, but blue mad for the second coming, blue veins on every dick I ever sucked, blue power, blue notes, the currency of blue, melodies, you, rubber orchestras, true blue blood and blue collar and blue scrubs fighting red coats, blue ink for blue manifestos of blue feathers, disobedient walls, graffiti is blue, Jab Molassi is blue, and maybe the second coming. First, the poem starts after the fight, when I go down on my knees and caress the flower of your forgiving cock, remembering the first time we kissed, empty streets confronting us with ourselves. When I'm laid in bed, I see you most clearly, but I see him too, all the versions of you jumbled up like the pitch lakes detritus, cans, branches, minerals. I didn't realize there would be so many firsts. First kiss, her lips absolutions for sins not yet enjoyed, for being unreachable. Then the beach that yawned with serene rage and spit a man at me. His hole harbored my fealty, held me until I saw in him a mirror, a wet face. Then the professor, whose library was a manifesto of yearning for wetted fingers, for marble hardness, and I made room for his, a new country where every day was the first day of something, and every night seagulls flew tall as dreams, over fields singed by birds of paradise. All of the new, all of the old, knowledge, a budding candle, candle turning to blaze. I didn't realize there would be so many days clear as coming out, days of coming out and coming out and coming out, because we are all of us stars that come out, too soon for twilight. too late for dawn, and even after they die, there might still be light. So I'm going to end with a poem called Chapter 2. I like to read this poem because I think it makes people wonder, well, what happened in Chapter 1? Chapter 2. That morning, the radio was playing a song that felt familiar, even if I didn't know the words, didn't understand the language. I recognized the grainy static, the tinny voice, the muffled beats as though they were my thrumming heart, as though they were the rain that had fallen last night on the galvanized roof as you slept on top of me, smelling of too much cologne, your two Venezuelan friends huddled on a bed in the corner, and something rising in their chests like bread dough, breaths, soft clouds now floating into the air. As I dream out of the house, the yard, I pass the chickens, I pass the barking dogs, and someone follows me. Am I remembering correctly? I have a strange feeling, as I did the night before, a feeling that there are sagas inside me waiting to be written, epics as heavy as the gold chain you wore as you thrust into me, and I muffled my moans because it was all so sketchy. And even as I surrendered to pleasure, I still thought the weight of your pendant slapping my flesh was like the weight of something I might one day carry, some foundation stone, some temple. I didn't know where the taxi stand was, and I asked a man who gave me directions and decided he would walk the short distance with me. Later, I roamed Port of Spain, knowing everybody could tell what I'd done, could smell the smoke from the club on me, could look into my eyes and see the drag queen, the pole dancer, the small room with walls of mirrors, the graveled yard outside on which footsteps crunch like whispered secrets, and groups of friends look at each other cautiously from a distance. Because tomorrow is the question. Thank you, everybody.